It's about time I actually sit down and finally do this. My name is Hassan. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to my YouTube channel. I've been wanting to make an introduction video for a long time to basically tell you guys how I got to where I am. I was once a young kid who thought I had the whole world figured out, and holy was I wrong. But I'm honestly happier for that. I thought I was going to be a dentist. And even though I wasn't totally wrong about that, I could never have imagined the path that God would put me on to get here. 9 years later, after initially getting my acceptance into dental school, here we are. I just finished my second semester of dental school at the University of Otago in New Zealand. 14,000 kilometers away and a 28-hour plane ride from everybody and everything that I know. Now let me take you guys back to the beginning. When I was getting into university, I thought I was going to be a surgeon. I know, big ambitions. After 6 months of university level chemistry and math and calculus, I said, nah, forget all that. I'm not doing the MCAT, 8 years of medical school, residency training, forget about it. So after 6 months, I thought to myself, what's a quicker way to become a doctor? What's a quicker way to help people, to have a job that gives you a good lifestyle? And I thought, what about dentistry? At that time, a friend just came back from Australia and had told me that you can get into the schools there right out of high school. So save those 4 years of intense studies with all these random undergrad courses like Calculus 2 and linear algebra and the biology of plants and insects. Honestly, they're useless courses when it comes down to it. No disrespect to any of the professors, but they're not functional to the practice of doing the field or doing the profession that it is that you want to do. So he told me you can get straight into dentistry out of high school, save the 4 years, become a dentist in 5 years. So I applied. And guess what? I got in. So at the age of 19, before any of my friends had gotten their acceptances or even started applying, they were in the first year of our undergrad, I had gotten my acceptance into dental school. Meanwhile, if I had stayed in Canada, I would have had to wait until the 3rd or 4th year to even apply to get a chance. So I thought, I'm gonna do this. Why not live in Australia, beautiful sunny place, get away from the cold of Canada and start my life 4 years early. Here's where it gets interesting. The same month that I got into dentistry, I also got an acceptance from the Islamic University of Madinah. 3 years after applying, I spent months conflicted about what decision I should make and what option I should take. Dentist or teacher of religion, and to have a deep understanding of Islam. In the end, I chose to study my religion. Honestly, my family thought I was crazy. My friends did too. Half of them were all for it. Half of them were like, what are you doing with your life? You're born and raised in Canada. This was 9 years ago. Religion and spirituality wasn't really cool or trending. So it was a crazy path to take. And rightly so, they were worried because I didn't grow up in a super religious family. It's not like I grew up in the mosque or was praying when I was 5 years old. My parents pushed me to pray, but we each had to come to Islam ourselves, and we each had to come to learning and understanding this religion ourselves as the younger kids. When I was weighing dentistry versus studying religion, I was paralyzed by this choice because it wasn't just a job, but it was the rest of your life. And I did what everybody does when they have a big decision that they don't want to make. I asked every single person what their opinion was. I Googled everything. I searched up on Reddit. I watched every TED Talk on decision making and filled up 20 notebooks with pros and cons lists and tried so hard to make the perfect decision. But in the end, there was one thought and one video that I actually watched that put this thought in my head, but there was one thought of what would I regret more? Would it be being a dentist, good life, and never experiencing what it would be like to be a religious teacher, teaching people the purpose of your life and bringing them closer to that, what it means to be a Muslim and what the true aim of our entire life and time here on earth is? What should we be prioritizing? How should we act to be considered a good person? What truth is, what morality is, what social norms are, when you should follow what your society is doing versus when you should stand out and speak up for the truth and what's right. The latter sounded way more interesting to me than working in mouths and teeth. I thought about it, and you know, the impact I could have as an imam, that outweighed what I could do as a dentist. I went to study my religion for 6 years, but after 6 months, I dropped out and came right back to Canada. It was too tough for me. I was a Western kid born and raised in Canada. It was like trying to drink water from a fire hydrant. I barely knew Arabic at the time. I barely knew how to recite the Quran properly and how to read. And I threw myself into the deep end of the pool where we are now learning Arabi in Arabi. Have you ever tried to learn Spanish in Spanish? No English? Yeah, it's tough. The lessons I did learn from Medina were priceless. And the experiences I had there, I wouldn't trade for the entire world. But after 6 months, I dropped out and came back to Canada. It was simply too much for me at such a young age, never having left the country, let alone living in a more underdeveloped country. Saudi was pretty rough at that time, especially outside the Haram. It wasn't like what it is today. And yeah, just honestly figuring out how to deal with the university, visa, immigration, all that at the young age of 19. It was too stressful. I couldn't focus on my school or my studies. And after 6 months, I decided to wrap it up, come back home, finish my studies, and recalibrate from there. So I came back home and continued my degree and reapplied to dentistry. Now, after 2 application cycles, finishing my degree, I finally got accepted into the University of Melbourne in Australia, one of the cities I always dreamed of living in. And then COVID hit, and they took our offers away and said, unless you're in the country right now, you're not allowed in. And it was back to the drawing board. Now, at this point, I started considering other options, wondering what else could be good for me, because I want to start my life, I want to get a move on, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want to make money, I want to be out of school. And physiotherapy checked off a lot of boxes for me. I loved health and fitness. I was already getting a personal training certificate. It seemed like a logical step, you know, help people with their bodies, help them with their injuries, having the knowledge and the capability to fix any issue in the body that doctors can't fix and that surgeons can't fix. Who are they sending them to? Physical therapists. If you don't know, a physical therapist is someone who treats the body mostly through exercise and through physical therapy, releasing tight tissues and teaching them how to incorporate all the muscles properly into different movements. Someone that teaches you how to move, basically. We're movement experts. That's a pretty cool job. I loved helping people, so I thought this was a good match, genuinely. So I decided to start applying, and I got into McMaster University in Ontario and moved away for 2 years to start my master's in physical therapy at an Ivy League school in Canada. So when I finished my degree, I worked for over a year at about 4 different clinics within that year and a bit. So I got a lot of experience. Some of the clinics were amazing. One of them, we got to treat CFL athletes and NFL athletes. That's a physio's dream. I had good jobs. I moved quick. I opened up a corporation and had my own company. More company by title, not a physical space, but I was able to do mobile treatments. I worked for a swimming team as a contractor. You know, I had some pretty cool gigs for only being out for a year. But I still found myself getting bored really quick. And not bored where you don't want to do something. More so, I felt like I was hitting my ceiling. And I know that can sound arrogant because I only worked for a year, but I mean, you get a good idea after working for 1,000 hours in a job. I looked ahead, and it just wasn't a job that was going to give me the lifestyle that I wanted. So I quit everything. I took a trip around the world. And I reapplied for dentistry. And here we are. That brings us to today. It's been a roller coaster of a ride. And I'm gonna make YouTube videos sharing different chapters of my life, walking you guys through the experiences, the lessons I learned, the mistakes I made, and what advice I would give to my little brother or sister if they were in your position. These chapters are gonna cover getting into dentistry at 19 years old, studying at the Islamic University of Madinah, and then dropping out, returning home, lost, confused, getting a master's in physical therapy, working as a physical therapist for over a year at more than 4 different clinics, and finally restarting and moving all the way across the world to New Zealand for dentistry. Each of these is going to have its own video coming out over the next couple of months. It's been a crazy ride and a story I never could have written myself, and I'm going to tell you all about it. I want to teach the lessons that I've learned and what they don't tell you as an 18-year-old entering university, about choosing a career, about how to get out of a place when you feel stuck, how to physically pick yourself up and fly and leave the country, because that's what you need sometimes, how to stay motivated and disciplined, and how to stay true to your purpose so that you're not a pawn at the mercy of life and society, and that you stay close to Allah and remember what it is we're doing here on earth, and how to balance deen with professionalism, with life in university, with still traveling and having fun, being a regular person. I'm going to show you life in dentistry because I think this might be the last university experience that I get. Inshallah it is. And I'm going to make you guys a couple unfiltered videos where I'm just talking to the camera and telling my younger brother or sister, if I had one, what advice I would give to them. You know, honestly, I like to think I'm a high achiever, a driven and motivated person who plans ahead, but sometimes life just happens to you and you have to see the good in it and make the best of it and make that part of your story, the good parts and the bad parts. And always remember that Allah is the best of planners. You don't know what the next chapter is going to hold for you. In movies, you have a little timestamp telling you how far along you are. In a book, you obviously know when you're going to reach the end of the book because there's a cover. But in life, you can think you have an idea of what the next chapter is going to be, but you never really know. Please tell me that was recording.
كن فريدا عش بفخر في الحياة لا تبالي فالمعالي بالتحدي لا سواه